It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielsen, Matt Cassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Two Guys and Goalie, brought to you by our partners at Coolbet Canada, all part of the Nielsen Media Coolbet Network. If you want to sign up and maybe bet on the over tonight in the Sabres-Oilers game, when you go to coolbet.com, sign up, use the code 2GUYS, the number 2 in the word guys, and you get a 100% deposit on your initial, 100% bonus on your initial deposit, up to $200. So you deposit $150, they give you another $150 on top of that, and so on. We got lots to get to. First of all, let me ask again: Did you guys watch the show? Did you watch the first?
I did it. I did it.
Are you still shaking your freaking head?
I
oh my God.
I know. I couldn't. I'm planning on it tonight. It's
so disappointed right now.
It was tough. I know. My son works. He came home and he goes, "I'm exhausted."
Listen, Gager, this is nothing against your son or anything, but you got to get your shit together because we got to, Cass, we got to talk about this episode, don't we?
Well, I think we do. I mean, do we give it a 30-second recap?
I'll go out.
Gager, get out of here. Cass is pretty good. That first scene when he comes in and
the
saves
first scene
the
was
day.
pretty epic.
Oh, that was
You know
good.
what I liked is it kind of left you hanging a little bit, as you didn't know, is this him as a young kid, like getting his first helmet
That's what
ceremony?
I thought it was. That's what I thought. Yeah.
But then like seeing the one guy, I don't know his name, like with the shoulder thing, the shoulder gun, where I was like, but that's the guy. I'm like, maybe that guy's way older and we just didn't know. But yeah, the ship flying in was a pretty awesome. I was like, pretty
awesome.
Sweet. Yeah, but a
Just to
good
save the day.
foundational episode. I mean, I'm hoping the next one we get like who the big bad guy is, because you're going to have the pirate involved, right?
Yeah.
Like so that.
But he's not going to be the biggest bad, I don't think. Right?
I don't think so. He's going to be maybe an ongoing antagonist, but we're going to have to see kind of what the big bad is running with it.
Yeah.
But
it's a good setup. Good setup episode.
It was a good setup episode. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Gager, you can come back. Yeah. Yeah. And the one thing that really surprised me was that they killed Mando in episode 1. That's crazy. Yeah.
And Grogu's got the helmet now. Like he's got his little Mandalorian helmet running around.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Just by the way you guys were talking like a couple of Italians arguing, I have to watch it. It was like all hand movements and
it was good, Gager. It was a solid episode. Not the best Mando episode, but a good kickoff.
By your reactions, it looked amazing. Actually,
it was pretty good.
There's a few pretty amazing parts.
There's a few pretty amazing parts. Yeah.
Okay.
No, that was good.
Tonight.
All right. Congratulations to Cassie's first place in the Formula One pool. Nice start. First time, Gager, you said first time that you have not been in first place since we started this thing.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, it's the first week I have not led the pool. So
it's basically his Mercedes.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
dealing with adversity.
Just hope I'm not Ferrari. So
pretty much.
We'll go from
That's
there.
right.
But congratulations, Cass. We'll have to get you the weekly winner prize.
You get to add another team, so then you have 3 teams. That'll be a great move for it. All right, Oilers and Sabres tonight. Let's dive back into that game versus the Jets. Obviously, I mean, since we last talked, they acquired Bjugstad. We'll get to that. They played 2 against the Jets, 1-1, lost 1. What everybody's freaking out about is Jack Campbell losing another one. That's 5 losses in a row. In all of those games, the team has scored at least 4 goals or more. Gager, got to get your take on it, man. How'd you summarize his play on Saturday night?
Not a confident goalie. Just there. I mean, I'm really nitpicking here, but a lot of those, there's a lot of people are saying, oh, they were tipped and things like that. But I look at the Morrissey goal where there was kind of a double screen, moving screen. And they had a great overhead view of Jack Campbell at that point. And I've said before, when as a goalie, when you don't see the puck, there's a natural tendency to start moving back in your net for some weird reason, because you think you can cover more. And you watch as soon as Campbell, that screen starts getting set up in front of him, he's in great position. He's at the top of the crease. And then all of a sudden he starts drawing back a little bit. And he hears the shot, he goes down, and it probably grazes his glove. I bet you he could feel it. If he were to just stay up and into that contact, like where the screen is happening and then makes himself big, that puck probably hits him. Maybe the rebound goes in, but he's making himself bigger. Like, he looks smaller and smaller to me in the net. That short side killer goal from the face-off dot, that just can't beat you. There was so much room on the short side.
Yeah.
Like, even I know he's on his off wing, but as a goalie, you got to think to yourself, and I think it did hit, and I believe it's CC's stick. It might have ramped up a little bit, but still, like, you got to think, you know what? I've got the short side cut off. You know, if anything comes short side, it's going to hit me in the shoulder at least. He's 6'4". He's a big guy. Let him try to beat you long side. Like, set it up so he can't see anything short side. Bad positioning, just indecisions, not good enough at all. Perfect opportunity for him to steal a game, because we looked what happened at the other end of the ice with Hellebuck. And although he had, like, they were scoring a lot on him, he was able to get into the third period, be stronger mentally, and shut everything down.
Yeah, I really feel, Gager, like the biggest thing for me, again, and I give him the deflection goals, like those 3 deflection goals. I just give him those and say, okay, those go in on a lot of goalies. Like, not much you can do on the crazy deflections where it goes like up high to down low really fast or completely changes direction. Like, I get those. But on the other ones, it really felt, and I texted you this, and you kind of touched on it. I really felt like he was retreating back into his net. Yeah. Like he was stuck back in. And I know there's some different goaltending philosophies on trying to push out versus having a slight retreat to what you're doing. But to me, it felt like it was dramatic. Like he was getting stuck way back in his crease instead of being out at the top and challenging. And that reeks of a guy that's confident. I mean, he's not necessarily confident that if there's going to be a pass, because that tells me he's not just playing the shot. He's trying to think of the pass as well. Like, when you're backing up, you're like, okay, well, this might go cross crease, and being a little bit further back gives me more ability to push across and to cover more net if I have to react that way. But it was like he didn't have as much confidence in his defenders on those plays, and didn't have as much confidence in himself, that he needed to sit back a little bit more. So, yeah, I mean, that was not a good one. Me and Tom got roasted for some people pretty hard on the post-game show for,
I saw those texts today when I went in. It was the last thing in there. I saw that.
Yeah, quit blaming the game on quit playing the game on the goalies. And I was like, we're not. Like, the team didn't help. And on some of those goals, there were mistakes that were made. Darnell Nurse trying to cheat the offensive side of the puck. Yeah, you had a variety of things and a variety of people that made mistakes. But this
isn't a one-off for Jack Campbell. This is 5 straight games, right? Like,
well, and the bottom line is, you score 5 goals, that should be enough to win a game, like,
or at least overtime.
Like, let's just with that, let's give him the 3 deflections. So he gets the 3 deflections, and give him one of those other goals. 5 goals is still enough to win 5-4. Give him 2 of them, and it's enough to make it to overtime and get a point. You can't really have 3 of those go in, and he knows it. I mean, that's why he said what he did after the game. Like, he's fully aware that them not getting at least a point out of that game, which really, if they go to overtime and they lose in overtime, we'd be disappointed, but we'd be 3 out of 4 points against Winnipeg, home and home.
It's an okay weekend. You're fine with that.
Okay, yeah. You're fine with that. The tough pill to swallow is just that you scored 5. You should have at least had a point in that game, and Campbell's got to wear it. He just has to.
Cass, what else stood out for you in that game? Anything else jump off the page for you? I mean, that's the big point of conversation. I'm sure you guys spent most of that.
That's a big point. I mean, there was some texts that came in, and people were like, "Oh, the power play sucks now." I'm like, did it though? I didn't think it sucked at all. Like, I thought the power play actually looked pretty good. They put a couple pucks in. Vinny Desharnais struggled. That's the first game where I watched the game and I was like, okay, he had a tough night that night, which not every night's going to be perfect. That was the most he's struggled in a game. So he had a tough one. So we'll have to see if he bounces back here against Buffalo. But that was the other thing that jumped out at me. I was like, oh, he had a tougher night with some of his minutes.
Gager, what about you, man? Anything else? What do you think of
scored an. I like the goal he scored, like going to a hard area. I need to see more. I think, Dusty, to tell you the truth, I want to see him in some key situations on face-offs, and I'd like to see it. Like, he's a big dude. I didn't realize he was that big. Like, I know he's not overly physical, but he can. I think he has the ability to lean on a few guys and make things a little bit more difficult. What's amazing is Leon seems to have really picked up his play. Right, he's initiating with the puck physically more. And just playing a more straightforward game. I like that. I think it's the way he's playing really sets the Oilers up well for when Evander Kane eventually gets back into the lineup. I'd like to see those guys. I know he usually plays with Connor, but I'd like to see Leon and Kane, just the way Leon's playing now. That's a very physical, tough brand of hockey with a lot of skill to try to defend.
Yeah, he's been playing way better.
Yeah.
He seems to have started to lock down some of his risk. Like, he's just taking less risk.
Yeah.
And I think it's beneficial for him, and it's paying off for him. So I'm hoping he runs with that, because he's been playing with a lot more intent in his game. Maybe one of the better words I could think of, or intentionality in his game. So I've liked Leon's game recently. Like, it bodes well, and I still like the team's game overall. Like, I know it wasn't a perfect game against Winnipeg. You did play a lot of hockey. You got a little bit let down by your goaltender. You did make some mistakes, but it was a busy stretch against some really good teams, and you did okay. You did okay through it. Like, when I look at the last week and a half, I'm not unhappy with how they played. Like, they played 3 really good games against good teams. And a fourth that you played all right. And the Boston game, you lost. You played well. They are the best team in the league. So it's like, you can't be upset about that one. You beat Toronto well. You beat Winnipeg well, and then you lost to Winnipeg in a game where I do feel like Winnipeg played extremely desperate. Like, Winnipeg played that game really, really well, and you still scored a whole bunch on them. And if your goaltender doesn't let you down, you still beat them in that. So still a lot of things to be positive about, I think. And Leon's game is one of them.
They get the Buffalo Sabres tonight. We'll get into Tage Thompson here in just a second. Philip Broberg is going to be scratched tonight. This is a team that's been rolling heavy on 11-7. Now with Bjugstad there, I don't know if that's factoring into this, but Broberg's going to be scratched tonight. Cass, you just mentioned Desharnais coming off a tough game here. Be a little bit more of an elevated role. That's like 8-9 minutes from Broberg that they're going to have to pop it on to Ekholm and stuff. There's ways to go about it, but just your thoughts on scratching Broberg for this game against the Sabres.
Well, he's a guy that has to play in his off wing, and we've seen from an ice time standpoint the last couple of games that it's a little bit more challenging for him. And really, when we look at the roster, like, you have Bouchard, who playing a lot more in the power play, semi-limited 5-on-5 minutes, and Broberg's been playing 8 to 10 minutes a night. And so you take that 8 to 10 minutes and you spread it out over 3 guys, maybe 4 guys even. It's doable, it's manageable, and so I think they want to get a look at it. And I think they want to get a look at having a full 4 with a little bit more oomph in the lineup. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Bjugstad with Kostin at some point, kind of going a pair with that to say, okay, we can put up a line here that, and I know Bjugstad isn't necessarily a nasty player to play against, but he is a big body that can get in on the forecheck and handle pucks down low. And then you have Kostin as well to say, okay, let's throw these guys and maybe work in some people on that right side, but add an element of physicality and tough to play againstness in the lineup. And maybe that's what they're looking for here. And Broberg, I mean, he's just been okay. He's just been okay. And I know there's people that absolutely love him. He's a young guy. He's to me, when I look at the difference for what Desharnais brings, particularly on the penalty kill,
they're different types of players, right?
Different types of players. I think it makes sense, especially with Ekholm coming in, that Broberg's a guy that sits this one out. Now, long term, do you want him sitting out all the time? No. Years in the future, do you want him being able to play those minutes? Sure, but for now, to me, it makes sense.
Gage, do you think this is a thing where he's just sort of the odd man out for now, or is this a thing where they get back to 11-7? Is there any way that they move him to the right side and Desharnais sits? Like, if let's say Desharnais doesn't play well tonight, I mean, do you take him right out and get Broberg back in there to go to 11? What do you think? What do you think comes from this? I guess.
think it's a combination of a little bit of both, Dusty. With maybe just a young guy, and he's played, like Cass said, he's for his first year, he's played well, but could be one of those situations. You know what? Go up to the press box, watch the game, have a look, and see how things develop. Like, you hear that all the time, and part of it. Maybe just lighting a bit of a fire too. Like, look, we're not always going to go 11-7, and you're going to have to battle to be in this lineup. And there's some guys in the lineup that have a unique skill set that we might need a little bit more of you from in those scenarios. Like, man, I even look at it's going to be tough for Broberg. I think there's going to have to be a major step for him. I'm just looking for next year for him to crack the lineup. If they got Niemelainen and some other young guys, it's gonna be difficult. He's gonna have to do something special. But I think he definitely has the capability of doing that. When we look at Bouchard, he's got a boost from the Barrie trade. Like, this is his best 3 games of the year, I think, for Bouchard. He's looked.
Yeah. Well, he's also played limited minutes, guys. Like, he 5-on-5. Like, he's played a lot of power play minutes, but they've I would say, I'd have to look at the actual numbers, but my quick impression,
sheltered him a little bit 5-on-5,
was they sheltered him 5-on-5.
Yeah. Well, he's getting out there now with Ekholm, so that's
and that helps huge.
That helps,
which is
time.
what
From a
that's
confidence
why you brought him
perspective,
in.
right? This is the bet that they made on Bouchard, right? Yeah. And it was. I chatted with one of their management guys over the weekend. And he just said, we talked about bringing in Ekholm and moving out Barrie. And he basically just said, he goes, look, we didn't want to move Barrie, but financially it had to happen. And we thought, are we going to be in the same position in the offseason with Barrie and Bouchard again? Kind of redundant, And I said, yeah. I mean, it totally makes sense. You're not going to move Bouchard for another year of Barrie when you can have Bouchard for the next 8 years, right? Like, it just had to happen. It had to happen. And what they did was they brought in Ekholm instead, which is for something that had to happen eventually. Like, it had to give at some point over the next 8 months, probably, to get Ekholm now at this time. You're going to elevate Bouchard a little bit and hope it works out for him. I think that's it's not even a good risk because it's the risk you had to take. It had to happen. So, yeah.
For sure.
What happens on that front.
I like it too. Like, I hate Barry's gone because I think there's a lot of intangibles that he brings, but to get something, it's most of the time you do have to give something up, and that was Tyson Barrie.
Yep, and it's unfortunate, but that's just the reality of what there was. And Dusty, as you said, you're going to have to move on him at some point.
Yeah, it had to happen at some point, and financially, it had to happen now.
And you needed a top 4 left D-man, and that is what you got.
Yeah,
he's just such a good guy. I was with one of my buddies and over the weekend, and we were talking about Len and Barry's uncle Mike that I used to play against. They're all great guys, like just real guys that you'd love to have on your team, right? Like, it's tough to see him go, but he comes from good stock, that kid.
All right, so they play the Buffalo Sabres tonight. Sabres trying to fight and hang around in that playoff race for a wild card spot in the East. Tage Thompson this year is on pace for over 50 goals and over 100 points. He's 6'6", 220 pounds. He's a little. I describe him as like the unicorn in the NHL today. Like, there's not many guys, but when we look back on the history of the game, there are not many. I mean, if you go and look at the list of guys who scored 50 goals, the number of them that are at 6'6", probably just going to include Tage Thompson. I think Mario was like 6'4" or something like that. Like, Cass, is there a comparable from the past that you can tie in to Tage Thompson? Because it's not like he's like overly physical, like Lindros size type. Like, to me, he's rare. He's very rare.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, guys that score 50 goals are rare, Dusty.
Yeah, that's true.
The potential to score 50 goals are rare. I mean, there's not many of them around. I mean, he's got a little bit of the Rantanen feel to him, where he's a big body but very highly skilled. Yeah, I mean, a soft Mario comparison, I think is fine. I mean, he's not Mario, doesn't play like Mario, but just in terms of the size, like he's a big body. But I kind of
skill and size in general, yeah.
I category, put it in that category where it's like, okay, you get over that 6'2" mark, like guys 6'3" to that 6'6" range, like you're a big body. That yep, big is big. That has the ability to do some things that other people maybe don't because of your size. And for me, I wasn't nearly as skilled, but for someone to be that big and that skilled and talent wise hey, it's awesome. And we expected this guy to have a little bit of a breakout year. I can't remember which one of us. It may have been me. It may have been one of you. I can't remember who, but we picked.
It wasn't me.
I think like the either most valuable or like a breakout player in the East or in that division. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, he's something else. That man, I'm telling you guys, they may make it the playoffs this year. They may not. It's going to be tight. But in 2 years, this Buffalo team is going to be lights out. Lights out. They have such a good young core. They have 2 absolute stud D-men. They're going to be a really, really good team. They're going to be a lot of fun. Like pay attention to this team and watch those guys tonight. It's going to be a great team.
2 stud D-men who are very different D-men, which I really like. Like, I think that's really good. Gager, any thoughts on this Buffalo team or Thompson?
Well, I look back to the game here, and Buffalo was just so much faster and quicker with how they did things. I know it was the beginning, but if the Oilers want any chance, they got to keep playing the way they did prior to the Jets game in those other periods where they were faster than everyone else and limited time and space. If they can do that, they should get the win tonight. But if they don't, Buffalo, they'll make you pay. Like if you don't come to play against them, they'll take advantage, especially if it's a little bit leaky on the defensive side.
Should be a really good game tonight. I'm very much looking forward to this game. 2 other teams that I want to talk about before we wrap up this episode of 2 Guys and a Goalie. Let's start here in Alberta with the Calgary Flames. At the deadline, you're 5-6 points out. And I don't mean lames as in like really, but it's like they're in a lame spot right now. Like they've put themselves in this spot where you're not going to be in the mix for Bedard. You're not going after it at the deadline. Nothing against Stetcher, who they brought in. Like, you're kind of in no man's land. To me, it almost feels like an organization that's waiting to make a significant change from a management or coaching level. Gager, let's Cass, your eyebrows raised. Let's go to you. What do you think?
My eyebrows raised. I've had a couple conversations with some people, and I think listen, and I said this at the start of the year, and I actually said this when Sutter signed a lengthy contract. And I said this when Tkachuk wanted out and Gaudreau wanted out, is you have a Sutter problem. And from a management standpoint, it's like if they want to bring in more skill up front, Sutter's going to say, oh, I don't want this guy. I'm not going to play him. And he'll follow through with that. And I think Trevling's hands have been extremely tied with what they maybe would want to do in the organization, with being able to make trades, with being able to bring guys in. I think you got a massive Sutter problem. And, if he's still there next year, I think it's going to fall apart, guys. I think it's going to fall apart. And I think we're starting to see that. You can't, and that's nothing against, the things that Sutter has accomplished as a coach, because he's won cups. He's done extremely well at times, but I just kind of go, has he adapted to younger players, and is he willing to change? And I don't know if he is.
I don't think you need to be an insider to say no on that one. Yeah. That's Gagers. It's not just like Markstrom possibly saves them next year with a bounce back season. Like that's
maybe
like that's it. Like I don't know what else you're supposed to do.
Well, I mean, yeah, he could be tired of Sutter too, right? Like I don't think he treats goalies any differently than he treats young players or his veteran guys. It just looks, you can see when they come off and the looks on the faces and in between periods, they're a defeated team. It's just things, and then just to hear it over and over again, probably from the coach, it's something needs to change. I watched their power play, and their power play was so good last year. And I know they're missing two key pieces, and now you got guys that have never played. That one of the reasons the Oilers power play is so good is not only are they the highest skilled guys on the planet, but they've been doing it for a long period of time too. Now you put some new guys together, it takes time to start getting those parts of your game. And
well, you didn't just lose two pieces; you lost the two most important pieces.
Yeah,
of your power play, right? Like,
and your goalie that had a great year the year prior is nowhere close to where he was. I mean, what was it, 9 shutouts that he had last year or something? And someone said he doesn't even have one this year. So, and basically Vladar kind of became the number one over the last few months. So when it just seems like there's a lot of leaks in this ship that we'll probably see us change in the summertime.
All right, Tampa Bay, we got to go there. On Saturday night, they've lost 5 in a row now. Saturday night, John Cooper benches Point, Stamkos, and Kucherov in the third period. The response on Sunday is to get hammered 6-0 by Carolina, outshot 38-14, including no shots on goal in the second period for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And we know Carolina's a great possession team, outshoot most of their opposition here. But, Cass, what's your thoughts on the developments, I should say, in Tampa Bay over the last 48 hours?
Oh, man. Yikes. Doesn't look good. I'm not worried about them. They're still going to be a playoff team. They're still going to be hard out in the playoffs, but talk about adversity. Yeah, they've sucked it up. So for a group that's nearing its last kick at the can here, man, I almost don't know what to say. The tough thing is, or the sucky thing for the Tampa Bay Lightning is that next game was up against Carolina, who's I mean, they're one of the best teams in the league too. So you went up against a team that smelled blood and jumped all over you. And I mean, you got to find some way. And those guys that you mentioned, I mean, the Kucherovs and Point and Stamkos, they have to find a way to turn the ship around and turn around quickly. I mean, that slide could keep going. Overall, I would say I'm not worried about them, but it's a nasty little bit of adversity for the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Can you imagine this market? Oh, go ahead, Gage. I was just going to say, can you imagine in this market if Woodcroft benched McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nuge at all? I mean, that alone would be a year's worth of content. But then went out the next night and lost 6-0. Like, now that being said, Tampa's got a couple of Stanley Cup championships and went there again last year. Gage, you like this though?
I like it because I think a little adversity is good, especially this time of year. Just a little bit of a reset button for Tampa. But look, man, I don't know if you guys watched any of the Rangers Boston game on the weekend, but man, I mean, it was every whistle there was a scrum afterwards. It was mean and nasty and highly skilled and yapping at one another. If those two teams, that's must watch that series because it was a great game. But Tampa, if they want to get back, they're going to have to beat one of those two teams, and they're going to have to change because that was one of the best hockey games I've seen all year.
That Eastern playoff is going to be absolutely incredible, and obviously we'll have eyes on what's happening out here in the West. All right, that's going to do it for a Monday episode of Two Guys and a Goalie. If you have been watching on Twitter, make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. We usually drop them on Mondays and Thursdays on all your podcasting platforms, Apple, Spotify, whatever. You can watch it on the Nielsen Media YouTube channel as well. Boys, enjoy your week. We'll have some hockey to discuss on Thursday, no doubt about it. We'll talk to you then.
Later, boys.
Engager. Watch Mandalorian because we're not taking that shit again. All right?
Yeah. Right after the right thing.
Right after the game.
Okay.
Right
do
after
the right thing.
Yeah.
Do the right
Gager,
thing.
this is the way.
I don't care. It is the way. And the way is to just tell my kid I'm watching it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, see you later, buddy. See you guys.